think I don't know? After 60 years?
Love you, brother. Good to you.
Oh, God.
When are you going to have this procedure done? Hey, Michael, what's happening?
I had it done Tuesday.
You had it done.
Now I'm going to wait and see how it works. They're recommending 2 more. And if it has any positive effect, I'll go for the other 2. Doesn't. Yeah.
Did they give you any indication if you feel any meaningful results from this first one?
Not until the 3 months really. And when they first inject the stem cells are nothing. You have to give them time to grow into part of it for this to happen.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So it needs time for that.
Okay, just watch what you say. We are live on the internet. The training will start in 5 minutes. Since we got 5 people, it takes a while for everybody to get the link and get on.
That's their problem. We're here on time. When I do seminars, I cater to the people that showed up on time.
Really?
Hold them.
And if his mom was late, you got to know that.
Priceless.
I
Very
just didn't want on the stock market. If I thought enough of you to indict you, I would have.
Thank God you didn't waste any more of my time than you're wasting here.
Priceless.
Want me to invite you to the next one?
No.
No, I'm serious. I'll let you know.
I'm not being sarcastic. I haven't got a dollar to put into it, so respectfully, I guess you go for the education.
Yeah, that's
Be curious.
that's
I'd like
the
to
time
see
to
it.
learn.
I'd like to see it. I'm Michael.
I'm Rhoda.
Hi, Rhoda. How are you? Good to meet you. I saw you yesterday at the picnic.
Okay,
How you doing?
great.
Good. Well,
Yeah, I tried to show up at the
Thank
picnic
you.
too. Of course, I called that wrong number. I drove through. Was it parking lot 4?
Yes.
I thought so. I drove through there. I didn't see anybody I recognized, but my knees hurt so bad.
Right in the middle of the parking lot,
That's what I
right by the...
There was a big group there.
Yeah.
I was kind of figuring it'd be Century 21 song.
Yeah.
No sign, just old people.
But I looked over there.
My dad is famous.
You're the first person I looked for, but then I looked around to see if there was anyone I would recognize, and there wasn't. I said, you know what? My knees are hurting bad enough that I don't even want to walk over there. I'm just going to drive.
It's too bad you didn't have the right number.
Yeah, you know what? I turn my phone off. Later, I'll show you the number. And try to text you.
We got about 5 people watching the broadcast online.
Okay.
We have about another 3 people that are supposed to... Yes. Yeah, it's live. So as long as they can see you in that box, they can.
Does it show who's there?
Yeah, I think it will. This is a little bit different because there's so many people. I decided to do a YouTube feed and just feed them the link. But if you do the regular Hangout, yeah, you can actually switch back and forth like a video conference call.
Oh, really?
See different people. So yeah,
Yeah,
I've been using that a lot in the training. It's really as they add these people from all over.
Yeah, really. Oh my goodness.
It's good.
What's
Yeah.
going on? Oh no, we met.
Cool.
Yeah, so I said
Nice to meet you, Mike.
real estate.
What,
Actually, I'm brand new. That's
What area are you from? What area do you service? Up here?
That's cool.
Just
Here we go. Here's the food. Yay!
Where'd you come from?
Sorry.
No, I'm happy.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm at AHRC. I'm still there
Oh, okay. Cool.
doing contracts.
Thanks very much.
And property management.
I'm great. How are
We
you?
raised the bed.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
I left your voicemail yet again.
Okay.
Did you get to meet the rest of the crew or some of the crew?
Some of the crew.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, Mike monopolized most of his time.
Actually, I owe you. Fully. We got to get together on Tuesday because I've been pulled in so many different directions. I haven't
Or surprise.
been
Standard operating procedure.
crazy, but I want to recap your list.
Okay.
We had success with doing some follow-ups on an old list that I just breathed life into.
Okay.
So I'd love to say like Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Is that good? I know my schedule's good. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
Watch
I know
your-
my schedule's good for it, so let's do Tuesday at 4. Cool. Block like 2 hours.
Done.
Yeah, sit right there. Turn it around. Get comfortable.
Welcome. So should we dive in?
Yeah, we can dive in.
Throw this here so I can see it. Do I got any response from the people over there, or they just get to be quiet? Not there. All right. So just to kind of recap, not even touch on some of the strategy stuff, but the idea of just managing your emotions and the whole dopamine and putting yourself in the right energy level. Anybody played with that anymore since the last time we spoke about it? Other than Mike, is Mike's a quarter crazy?
Karen's saying yes.
You weren't here last time. I know you two are newer. Really, in a nutshell, I think that's the foundation of a lot of what I do. It's just a matter of managing the state you're in, and I have an expression that I stole from Tony Robbins that I believe in so wholeheartedly and so fundamentally, and it's state trumps all, right? The frame of mind you're in when you engage, be it in sales and any element of life, when somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose, whoever has that greater energy somehow perseveres, and they have a competitive advantage. So if all else is equal, the competitive advantage is going to be to whoever has that energy, right? Whoever has a superior state. And there's different things that I've toyed with over the years, and one of them that by reading this study, it completely changed my mindset on how I approach people. And I encourage you guys, if you haven't yet, look it up. It's how the chemicals dopamine work within your brain. Do you know what that is? Have you ever heard of dopamine? Dopamine is the feel-good chemical. When you dance or scream or run or work out or do anything that really gets you excited, it's very parallel to that of adrenaline, but different in the sense that it's more of a feeling than a rush. It's the feel-good chemical, and your body produces it. The closest parallel they make online is that of a feeling of cocaine. It's a natural cocaine. And your body produces this chemical, and again, it's funny because you could so feel when it kicks in, and it heightens your senses. It makes you more alert. So they have studies that show people, both mentally and physically, perform significantly better when they're in this zone. And again, the studies prove that mentally, in the sense that there's standard tests that are put through, and then they get people to exercise, and they put people through these trainings to get their dopamine levels up, and then have the same difficulty of questions, they do better. Obstacle courses, same thing. The performance levels are always much higher when people's dopamine levels are higher. So the first time we did this, I just focused on that, and I played Michael Jackson Beat It very loud, and I had everybody screaming and clapping and yelling like lunatics, and we can't do that every time. But I hope that people do it in the privacy of their own homes, because that's how a lot of this stuff is foundation. It revolves around the idea that you have to be in control of yourself before you could be in control of others. So I wanted to go back to that to say, if you weren't here, or for that matter, if you were here, none of this new stuff takes the place of that. If you still aren't in the right frame of mind, you're not going to win. And I shouldn't say you're not going to win. You don't have the competitive edge that I'm hoping to award everybody if you approach sales and business purposely or strategically, right? So that's the foundation of it all. So with that said, John and I looked at a couple of the topics, and the two things we're going to focus on today is time and emotion management. Now, emotion is different than state, right? State is an overall umbrella above all frame of mind. It's your energy level. And when I asked the group, round one, what stops them each day, or describe how you feel each morning, Aaron Bates said something along the lines of, some days I feel on top of the world and I could kick anybody's ass, and other days I just want to be left alone. And I went and I hugged him. If you guys were here, you remember that, because he made it easy for me to segue into the idea that people are sometimes on top of the world and they're sometimes at, the bottom of the barrel. The art is getting yourself to the top of the world and staying on top of the world in spite of resistance that the world around you is going to give you to break that down, right? Some knucklehead on the freeway flicks you off because you didn't let him in on an entrance ramp. That's going to deteriorate somebody that's not going to put whatever circumstance in perspective and let it bounce off. State. Now to bring it to to what we want to do today, time and emotion management. What's up, brother? So time management is huge to me. So I want feedback. I want you guys to be honest with me because some real life examples from the perspective of an agent is going to help me prove some of these points. So the first question, and everybody has to answer, put your hand up if it's yes, leave your hand down no. Are you busy? So we're talking all day, every day. Are you busy? Keep them up. Okay. So if your hand's up, the next question to that is, are you where you want to be financially? Take your hand down if you're not. So it's safe to say everybody's busy and nobody said they're where they want to be financially. Mike, I noticed you didn't put up for busy, but I think it's because you have an appetite that's immeasurable, so you probably don't consider yourself busy, but nonetheless, we'll get back to that. For everybody else that acknowledges they're busy, but they're not where they want to be financially, I'm going to be as bold as to say your largest problem is time management. And I'm going to explain to you why. If you're busy and you're not where you want to be financially, would everybody agree that at least in part you're doing the wrong shit with your time?
Yes.
Can't be any other explanation.
No. Right? So if you're busy and nobody has time to do what they love to do, but you're not where you want to be financially, you don't recalibrate often enough. Period. End of story. Lesson's done. Now, I'm going to explain it in further depth, but the most important part is that if you're busy and you're not where you want to be financially, your time management skills have to be revisited. So that leads me to the next thing. Obviously, we identified the problem. How, if at all, do you prioritize your day? I want specific examples. How do you approach your day? Anybody?
The hardest part you just put out first. I mean,
You know,
the most money-making, well, I can't say the most money-making activity, because sometimes there's links in the chain that you got to complete, and real estate is not like a 2-second thing. So I guess the most urgent activity to continue producing income.
is it safe to say that you're giving the squeaky wheel oil?
Yes, but also selecting which squeaky wheel I want to attend to. If somebody just called me and says, hey, I want to go see this house that just came up on the internet today, drop everything, take me, I'd be like, no.
Okay.
But, you know, they're like...
We're going to feed into some of that. Anybody else? How do you prioritize your day? And it's an important question because if you don't know how to answer what you do to start each day or start each week or set goals for a month, then my litmus test of making you raise your hand if you're busy and take it down if you're not where you want to be financially is spot freaking on if you don't have any way to prioritize your day. So talk to me about some kind of other strategy. Anybody have anything?
There's an old, what's that, the frog?
Eat the frog, you nasty bastard.
Do the most difficult thing first. And it's the thing that most brokers don't want to do in this process.
I went on a fishing trip and they had one of the pools on the boat was to eat a beating heart. That's nasty shit. Yeah. Anyway. I didn't do it.
You didn't do it? No
Are you
way!
crazy?
Come on.
I got
Food
other
evidence?
Yeah,
Anyway.
okay. Beating hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, do what you don't like to do most, but even that's kind of a funky way to prioritize because I want to go against that and say what you like to do or what you could convert to something that you enjoy is easier earned money. So part of what I want to evaluate, even though when you get a commission check, nobody tells you you got paid $35.50 an hour. I need you to evaluate how much time it took you to earn that check. So even if we start by looking backwards and say what transactions came easy to us, what transactions did we enjoy, what transactions were painless, and then the flip side of that is what transactions were gruesome and did we have to muscle ourselves through to earn the check. Obviously the gruesome ones have the lower hourly rate and then the more enjoyable ones have the higher hourly rate. Then there's an X factor, right, or a variable. How much did you enjoy it? So you can't just count hours. If you're working with somebody that's a pleasure to get along with and there's bullshitting in and out of it, you can't count those hours. That's really not work. You're living, right? And I think I said maybe 2 months ago, whenever we had the first one, I took a stance a few years back that I consider myself retired in the sense that I don't do anything I don't want to do. I evaluate everything put in front of me, and I take a position of I don't have to do anything. I take people's recommendations, and I regularly do things other people suggest I do, but at the end of the day, I put everything on a set of scales, and I weigh out what the gain would be in doing whatever it is that's put in front of me versus doing something else, like watching Jimmy Fallon, right? Every day I have this set of scales. So let's go back to prioritizing. If there's any other tools that somebody could give me other than eating the frog or the hottest fire, right? Talk to me about it. And there might not be, but then that's a problem. You guys got to revisit that. We'll talk about some strategies.
I mean, I make lists.
Okay.
I don't always remember to go back to my list.
And that's
So it doesn't
good.
mean it's a-
And that's the same thing. I keep on getting too close to the screen, I'm sure. I'm like hitting them with my stomach. That's good, and lists are good, but only if they're followed, right? And it's the same thing with setting goals. You could set goals and not hold yourself accountable, and the goals aren't worth the piece of paper you wrote it on. So setting goals, creating lists. Does anybody use their calendar, Outlook? I'm a fanatic. I don't know who was in the room last time we spoke about this, but I get made fun of regularly for how obsessively I use my calendar, and people have said Skittles puke on my screen because everything has a color, everything has a time, and my reminders are set fanatically to be in sync with when I need to be told how far in the future I have to do whatever it is I'm holding myself accountable to do. Again, we'll go back to it. Now we're just talking about priorities. Part of what I want to say is if you don't have a way to evaluate what is the best use of your time over the course of a day, start by looking back. Actually, let me take that back. Does everybody know what they're supposed to do to get to their end goal? Right?
Raising our hands for yes or no?
Yes, that you know what you're supposed to do. Do you know the building blocks to get there?
I don't even know what a building block is.
So like if for argument's sake you want to get listings, right? Or for that matter, secure a certain number of sales per month. We said last time that we did a test. Actually, Lisa, I think you were with us when I made everybody in the room tell me how many outgoing calls would it take. This was years ago. How many outgoing calls would it take to connect a showing? How many showings does it take to get an offer? How many offers does it take to get a contract? And of those contracts, how many does it take to get a closing? And most people had no idea where they stood. And I showed them that when I was in the sales seat and I was fielding my own buyer leads, I measured that. And I measured it not necessarily to be accountable to somebody. I owned the business. I measured it to see where I needed work. So if I knew that I had a very high conversion from getting people on the phone to getting them into the house, but then nobody left with an offer, I got to revisit how I'm showing people and how I'm extracting an offer or who I'm showing in the first place. If I put a ton of offers on the table, yet I never get a contract, I have to revisit, am I just collecting offers for sport, but I'm never winning the bid? Am I working with bottom feeders that have unrealistic expectations? I have to revisit it. The common ground is going to be recalibrate. If you never look at what you're doing and evaluate what you're doing wrong, that makes you busy, but you're not financially free, shame on you. You got to get behind a pen and paper, and you have to be brutally, painfully honest with yourself to evaluate all these things. And we're going to go over different tactics, but for the most part, what I'm saying is break down your entire day. Where do you spend it? Where do you want to be? And then where are you falling short? So when we went over it, and yes, you're right, you said 16.6. I took all of my agents' numbers. I had Jessica at the time, right? Just Amadeo wrote down what every agent said. And I went and took an average. And there was maybe 30 people that gave their opinion. And I said, with everybody's opinion, not including my own, everybody else's opinion, 16.6 outgoing calls per day should result in 2 transactions per month. And that was with their own numbers. And I could show you guys how I arrived at it. And then I said, once you have that magic number, you have to see how many outgoing calls do you make, how many appointments do you get, how many contracts do you put in place, and what's your fallout ratios. You guys got to start to measure that. That's all a part of recalibrating, right, if you're depending on sell-side business. Now, if you're going after list side, like in the case of a Nubo strategy, you also have to look the amount of hours you're putting in, the total number of candidates you have, the total number of righteous phone numbers, how many attempts into those phone numbers. If you're getting a lot of people, but you don't have a lot of conversion, we have to revisit that. If there's not righteous data and you're just not getting any people, and Mark, you're going to be experiencing this soon too, but in anybody's world, if you're going after listings and you're getting a bunch of people and you have a poor conversion, it's not the integrity of the data that you're pursuing, right? It's how you're pursuing it. But you got to break it down and do something different to get a different result. Does that all make sense so far?
Yes.
So I say to go back to the idea of trying to figure out a way to prioritize, because you got to look at how you spent your time and how much money you got from it. It's as simple as that. And you guys got to start writing down how you spend your day. I did that, and there was a point in Cruise where I spent every Wednesday, well, it started Tuesday and Thursday, then I ratcheted it back down to just Wednesdays, at my house. And I didn't go to the office. Do you remember that, guys? I didn't go to the office. I didn't pick up any of my agents' incoming calls, and it started 2 days a week, and I pulled it back to 1 day a week because it was very difficult to sustain. And I focused that entire time on business development. I don't care if I lost business I had already. I focused those 2 days a week on getting new business. And I recovered tremendously from a huge hit I took in 2010 because I carved out the time and I said I spent too much time working for my business and not on my business, and I'm putting out fires and I'm greasing squeaky wheels all day, every day. I got to step away from it, and I got to put time into getting new business, diversifying opportunity, right? Then the second half of that was shaving dead weight. And I revisited every single day, and I said, what do I do over the course of a day that just doesn't get me any money? And do you know what I did? I fired 5 people from my team that did BPOs all day, every day. Cause, right? I was in BPO hell. Yet I did them to stay in front of the banks. And you know what? Some people take the stance of business is business. If you have enough hours in a day and it shows a return, it's worth it. Yeah, bullshit. It shows a tiny little return. It occupies it. I spend, for every dollar I earn, I spent 95 cents making that dollar. My return on investment was very, very low. I had to field asset manager calls. Again, I use myself as a parallel because I don't want to break down what any one of you guys do in a day, but I took time out of every single week to revisit what I did the day before or the week before and put everything on a set of scales and say, you know what? This was a home run. This was a flop. I got to do more of this, less of that. Make sense? You have to do that. That's absolutely step one. Break down your day. Now, how you prioritize your day is by putting things in number order and carving out time to do what it is you know is most important. So everybody, actually, let's go back to the database for a second, right? I said a few weeks ago that every buyer or seller candidate you work with, you have to put in your phone and grade them A, B, or C. You guys remember that?
Yes.
So I made the bad mistake. Condor Capital, did you guys hear my, well, this is being recorded, I gotta be careful, specific names I use. There's some people and some banks that were very labor intensive and they just weren't as easy to get along with. And when I got home at night and I found myself pissed and not enjoying what I did, it wasn't until I had to stop myself and say, what's pissing me off? Why am I unhappy? I live a great life. Why am I like frustrated? Why do I want to kick a cat? You know, and I look back in history, and it's a bad conversation with an asset manager, or it's a phone call about a BPO that I know I wasn't going to make any money off of, and I cut it out of my diet, and then all of a sudden you start feeling better. Then you do it again. You look at, you know what? I'm running around with these people, and I'm not insisting that I get a pre-qualification in advance. I just had it on Port Washington. Just happened like a few hours ago. This guy insisted he did not need one. Am I going to lower my standards? Am I going to lower my standards and do it? No. I'm going to stick to my guns because I know that I've been burned before by acting on a handshake. I want somebody to have skin in the game. I want somebody to match me for effort. Shave it out of your diet, right? How you start and end each day. Now let's talk about approach. And I'm jumping around, and then I'm going to stop in a second, and I want you guys to just hit me with questions about time management and real life stuff. So many people touch and go on tasks. They have all these things they want to do in a day. They start this, then they start that, then they start this, then they start that, then they go back to this, then they jump back to that. Bullshit. By the time you plug in, unplug, redirect, replug, unplug, redirect, see what I'm doing? Doesn't make sense, guys. It doesn't make sense. I proved it all day with my own administrative team. They were guilty of that, terribly guilty of that. And now I have a fraction of the size crew that operates 10 times more efficiently. Do you remember how full the office in Seaford was when you first came over? Every single seat was full, right? And there was a point, now granted the volume's not as high now, but there was a point that the volume was just as high and I had a third of the people. Why? Because I spent every Tuesday and Thursday at home watching people's outboxes and inboxes and where they were on the internet and what they were doing and just auditing my team's day. The difficulty is you guys got to do it for yourselves. So sometimes you're tempted to give yourself a break and be like, I'm so nice to my mom, I deserve a break. Yeah, it doesn't count. Who cares? Be hard on yourself, right? So I say all this because if you can't break it down and you can't be honest with yourself and prove to yourself where you're wasting time and what you should redirect, you're never going to get there. Still all make sense?
Yes.
So, all right, let me look at some of these other bullets and then I'm going to open it up for you guys. So how often do you recalibrate? That was all in part to say revisit what you're doing, do more of what works, do less of what doesn't. Grade your buyers so that you put more time into A quality buyers and put less time into C. I was hoping somebody would say that the squeaky wheel gets the oil because that is the polar freaking opposite of what you should be doing. That's so wrong. It's the non-noise makers. It's the quiet people that are going to award the highest hourly rate because everybody's fighting for their business because they're so qualified. They don't need to hunt you down. But the people that are hunting you down are very often the people that are least deserving of your attention. Fair statement?
Yeah.
So it's crazy that the default knee-jerk is if they're calling me, they're an easy client. They pursue me. Yeah, they pursue you because nobody's freaking pursuing them. Do you really want the bottom feeders? But if they're the loudest and you give them the attention, shame on you, which is why everybody has to be put into your phone and you got to give them a grade. Even if it's a code, right? It doesn't have to be A, B, and C, so you're not embarrassed that, God forbid, they see how they're classified in your phone. Don't, like, say John Doe dipshit. Just try to create your own code, but my point is evaluate what time you put into what candidates. So use of your calendars. Every single appointment has to make it onto your calendar. And every single initiative, even if it's just recalibrate. I want 3 hours a week spent on recalibrating, just looking at your day. Don't take incoming calls, don't make outgoing calls, look at your day and block time to do stuff you know you're supposed to do but you don't do. But even to break it down more simply, you get a showing appointment. So you get an appointment to show a property in Massbeth, right? You should get that person's email and you should send them a calendar invite through Outlook. Are you doing that now? Okay. And if, no way, you don't want that. I'm telling you, get it on Outlook, get it a calendar. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar how to send somebody a calendar invite, come see me. I mean, John, you could show them, right? It's so easy. But the important part is you set your reminder to an appropriate time before the calendar invite to tell you when to follow up. What do I mean by that? If you have a meeting at 9:30 on a Wednesday morning, how often is that person running brutally late if they even show up? All the time, of course. Morning appointments, they suck, and people stiff us all the time. Fair? Am I exaggerating? Did they just stiff me, or do they stiff everybody? Okay. So knowing that's the case, when you send out the invite, first of all, it's going to ping their phone telling them they have to be there. But more importantly, you're going to set your own reminder for 6 o'clock the day before. They're getting out of work, and then you're going to shoot them a text, or 7 o'clock the evening before, and that's when you shoot them a text, just touching base, making sure we're on for tomorrow morning. Then at 8 o'clock in the morning, so when that calendar reminder goes off, you open it up and reset the reminder for 2 hours before, or an hour before. So now at 8 o'clock, it's telling you, I'm meeting that at 9 o'clock. You shoot them a text. I'm going to be stopping at Dunkin'. You want something on the way in? And remember when I was talking about rapport building? It's a cup of coffee. It's $1.50. But in the middle of the winter, it's going to go a long way. Or now you have some guy that is such a, even our IT guy, Tom was here the other day, he said he had to go get some crack from Dunkin' Donuts. I was like, whoa. I'm not a coffee drinker. But my point is, you see how now you're reminding the person, you're building rapport, you're making it easy for them to stick to the commitment they gave you, and you're in control of your own schedule. You're not going to get there and have to wait an hour by the time this guy gets there because they're late, right? Organize your day. Anybody disagree with that approach? But you have to set the calendars and use them the right way. Now, it's a 3 o'clock appointment. It wouldn't be appropriate to set it for 7 o'clock the day before, right?
Because 3 o'clock, everything's going on. So now maybe you'll do it 3 hours earlier or 4 hours earlier. Or that morning, you know what? You get to your desk. Each morning, the first thing I do, so help me God, is open my calendar and look at what I have for this day, the next day, and sometimes 3 days after. I kind of pan through the first thing before I even open up emails, just to get a feel of how tight my schedule is and what I have to jam in. And if I have to move everything or anything, I want to move it before the time comes. I don't want to get there and then have to move it because there's a fire drill that stood in the way of it. Whenever possible. It's not foolproof, but does that make sense? So not only block time for simple things like appointments, and it's going to help you guys follow up, but block times for the things that you have to make a must. So everybody knows you're supposed to eat well and you're supposed to work out. I don't eat well, I don't work out. It doesn't mean enough to me, but I know I'm supposed to do it, right? I ate pizza at like 10:30 last night. I know I'm not supposed to do that, but I did it. My point is, my business means enough to me. So I take the time to block time for the things I know I need to do. And there's severe penalties that I inflict upon myself, I guess. I don't like literally kick my ass. I'm not hacking limbs. But I'm hard on myself if I block that time and I don't do it. And, you know, you guys might notice that more than half of the day on Tuesdays, I'm not here. Right? I mean, John sees. I sometimes don't get in on Tuesdays till 3 o'clock because I spend time either on the road, getting reacclimated with what my field guys are doing or what they're supposed to be doing. I spend time on the other avenues of my business, and I spend time at my house when my fiance's not home, it's quiet, and I just reevaluate my business. I dive into my employees' outboxes, I look at the available properties, I look at what banks are or not giving me business. I take almost an entire weekday. And the only reason why I even come back up here to Syosset rather than making it a whole day is just to kind of recalibrate. We had the Nubo on Tuesday nights, but I got to tell you, my Tuesday is my old business development Wednesdays. And I put it back in action because I saw since the merge I'm not looking for new business anymore. That's foolish. Make sense? You guys got to block time for those same initiatives. If you want more listings and you say I'm always running buyers, I can never take the time to call listings, and I know I'm supposed to. I know listings are it. Listings are gold. Listings come along with buyer opportunities. They're just it. Block the time. If you're busy and you're not where you want to be, you're doing something wrong. The dullest pencil is better than the sharpest mind. You guys heard that expression? I think I might have said it. The dullest pencil is better than the sharpest mind. Write it down. Well, I don't mean you guys have to write that. Everybody's like, whoop. I didn't mean you have to write it down now. I meant write down whatever it is you have to do. Commit it to writing. The dullest pencil is better than sharpest mind. I say that because even if I have to do something 5 minutes after the time I'm supposed to do it, I'm leaving myself Post-its. I've left big pieces of paper, like I'll leave it in my shirt so I just can't ignore it because I can't look left without the paper like hitting me, you know? Post-its, you were saying you make lists, oh my God. The point is, write it down. Don't commit stuff to memory because now all of a sudden that's when there's a fire drill. You forget you were supposed to do something in the morning and you didn't put it on your calendar and you didn't write it down, and then the afternoon you remember that and it takes the place of something else, and all of a sudden your organized day becomes unorganized because it was organized in your head, not on paper. So that's very important. Do the squeaky wheels get the oil? Shame on you. It's the easy clients that offer you the highest hourly rate. We spoke about that. Identify your next step. What are you doing wrong? That's all a part of just breaking it down, look at your day, and do something different. If anybody needs specific help, again, John's a strategy architect. He'll be able to get you there. But if you don't break it down and you don't revisit how you're spending the hours of the day and you're still not profitable enough, shame on you. We've been looking at conversion quite closely, just the amount of leads going out and the amount of deals being put on the table. That's been a focus of mine. As a matter of fact, John and I are trying to earmark a time to get together early next week. There's a ton of freaking leads. If we're not putting enough leads on the board, we're doing something wrong. And it might not be something you're individually doing wrong. You, I can't blame anything on yet. But anybody is individually doing wrong. But at large, it could be an approach issue. Maybe we're not vetting them the right way. Maybe we're giving everybody the same amount of attention when only 1/10 of them deserve our attention. How do we vet out that 90% that are rock-kicking fools that we should flush down the toilet so that we make the 10% gold bars our focus? I don't have to know how you spend your day or how you spend your day or you spend your day or Lisa spends her day. I don't have to know that to know we're not where we could be from a conversion standpoint. I said it to John. I said I want to revisit it, but that's what I want each one of you guys to do. And look, if somebody's not going to bring you through the goal line, ratchet down the amount of attention you give them. That's the bottom line. So all that to say what's standing in your way. So now let's go over time management. Any feedback on what I'm saying? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree? Do you think I'm a lunatic? Do you think I should eat Skittles rather than putting it on my calendar? Tell me. Are you guys guilty of that? I mean, anybody want to admit it?
Mike just did.
The one, it's a little tough to, you know, I would almost add to where you say, don't give the squeaky wheels, don't give the people of your most attention all of your time. I would think you should add to that and say only after an in-depth evaluation of who that buyer is. Obviously, if it's, hey, I just sold my house, I got 300 grand cash and I'm pre-qualified, I want to buy a house. That person should get about as much. So after you evaluate the caliber of that buyer, then I think you can make the statement.
They can be as squeaky as they want. They'll get my oil. Right. But you know what, Kaz? That's why the word I want to repeat as often as possible and I want to brand in minds is recalibrate. Because it also has to do with what other opportunity is available. If it's hot and you got 3 of those buyers, now I would give people permission to even push aside your B quality client because you happen to have 3 A's. Those are ripe A's. They're deserving of your time, right? But it comes down to recalibrating, and I bet my life that a majority of us don't do that. You got to stop and just revisit what you're doing and break it down and write shit down. God help me, write stuff down. When you sit there and think about it, nothing's going to get done. But if you make a flow chart, has anybody ever used Visio? It's an amazing program. You're familiar with Visio? It's very good, and I could show you. I have like 20 Visios of my life. It's crazy. It's a program that just has a series of squares, diamonds, triangles, different shapes, and you pull lines to different things. It's how many people make flow charts. You know what? Call me a nerd, call me what you want. You put it on paper and you look at how you spend your day, or where, in my case, where my resources go. That's what, when I first used Visio. I broke down where my resources go and where my income comes in. And I showed some cash goes like this, right out the door, and some cash I put into the company and it appreciates. And it broke down, it illustrated for me. So please, when you're evaluating your day, break it down. But to Kaz's point, it's not so black and white. It's not whoever speaks the loudest or calls you the most often should be ignored. You have to recalibrate. You have to revisit who you're working with, and shame on you if you don't get time to follow up with your most qualified purchasers often enough because you're trying to coddle relationships with too many people at the same time. Right? Buffini said your database should be an inch wide and a mile deep. Not an inch deep and a mile wide. And if anybody can't distinguish the difference between the two, shame on you. You should have in-depth, intimate relationships. You should know your people. You should know what they want. You should know where they vacation. You should know how much they're spending, what they do for a living. Meaningful relationships. You can't have meaningful relationships with an insanely large database. You can't be a buyer hoarder. That all comes down to time management in my book. If you have too many buyers, you're going to half-ass everything and miss the goal line because you're going 90% of the way on every task you're trying to tackle. Shame on you. Break it down, shave dead weight, and put full intensity on the stuff that deserves it. Time management. Any other issues that you guys want to talk about? Hit me.
Well,
not literally.
It's always been my experience, not to have the greatest example of, but 4 to 6 A buyers is kind of all that I really had the capacity to really absolutely follow up on. And I mean super A buyers. I mean ones that are getting me called Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's really 4 to, so I would almost think that if you try and pick your top 5 and do the best that you can with the top 5 first, then everybody else goes in B category, C category. But
and recalibrate so that as you put those people in contract, you're going to look at your B buyers and you're going to touch base and say who's the closest to it, who's been the most active on the internet, who got that pre-qual, who did get a promotion in their job. And you're going to evaluate what change from a B status could upgrade to an A, because if you have 7 proverbial slots that you want to fill with A quality buyers, you revisit the B buyers and say, who can I make an A? Or for that matter, guys, you want to talk about writing shit down? What's the difference between an A and a B? Write it down. Make your own evaluation. Who the hell am I to judge? Right? You guys figure out what means it. And from your standpoint, you might say, to me, it's not all about money. I want to enjoy my life. I don't want to have to deal with some snotty, twit that's going to be up my ass about every little detail. You know what? If you get along with them, work with them. You could be working with a guy that might be half as qualified as the next guy, but he could love boats. So from your standpoint, it's easier to income. You're hanging out with a buddy, right? And I know, listen, of all people, I'm going to use Kaz as an example. We walked into a random house in Belmore one time, and the neighbor came out like flipping out. These leaves are always all over. I rake 3 times a day. This like crazy old lady, right, flipping out. And Kaz is like, I don't want to get off on the wrong foot. I'm Steve Kozlowski. I know this person. I know this person. I know this person, right? And they were like, oh, you know that person. And you said this person walks their dog, remember?
Yeah.
Before you know it, this little old lady who I'm pretty sure she had like a machete. She was ready to shank me. She's hugging Kaz. And I was like, what the hell? Right? You remember that day? But my point is, he works what he's got. To him, he knows he has that. So for him to work in his neighborhood, he'd rather work where his name means something in that neighborhood, and he's like a mayor of the community, than go outside of his element for somebody just as qualified. Fair statement? So if you had an opportunity in New Hyde Park, to you, it's not just the dollars and cents or the price point. In your own backyard, you have influence, and people love you, and you get stuff done. And you don't have a lot of travel time. You have 2 kids you want to spend time with. So in his life, he evaluates what means something to him, and he does so much business inside of a tight proximity, but he's doing better than most of our agents, right? And you're having a good year so far.
Yeah, and I think it kind of taps a little more on saying enjoy what you do. I enjoy just kind of, I think you made the statement, taking a buyer out that is almost like hanging out. It's almost like a friend. I try and do things that I know is just going to be fun. Hey, I'm just hanging out with these people.
It is, and I said 2 times ago that we have to be professional friend makers. And part of the reason why I retired 3 years ago. Part of the reason why I retired 3 years ago is because I enjoy what I do enough that the stressful part of my business gets casted a shadow over as compared to the part of the business I like. And that feeds into it exactly. If you try to enjoy what you do, it's easy earned money. You get paid to live, guys. You get paid to live. It's residual, right? Because you're just being you. But if you can't break apart what parts you like and don't like, or for that matter, identify why you don't like it. Again, this is all a part of time management, because if you're spending a bunch of time trying to do stuff you don't like to do, you're not going to do it as passionately or as well. You're wasting your freaking time. Shave the dead weight. So if you're stuck that the only way to do it is door knocking, but you hate it, why the hell are you going to put the time into door knocking? Okay. Anything else on time management? Okay. Actually, I didn't read the definition of time management, which I actually thought was funny. I Google everything, for the record. So Wikipedia says time management is the act or process of planning and exercising conscious control over the amount of time spent on specific activities, especially to increase efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity. Bam. That's such an awesome definition. Anyway, you guys can make fun of me later. All right, emotion.
Waiting for the subway tile.
You guys don't know what it's like being in the head of mine. It's horrible. All right, emotion. You guys have heard my sentiment about emotion, I'm sure, but I say less emotion, more logic. Did you guys ever hear that? I have a no whining sign on my desk. If anybody's ever been in my office, it says no whining. I have a bunch of different sayings I could get into, but the point is, I don't like when people let their emotions get the best of them. And I can't really sympathize with it because I'm beyond the point. So it's hard for me to understand why somebody could be so angry at a scenario. And the 2 things that really help reshape absolutely everything that throws you off emotionally is perspective and choice. Very powerful words. And those are going to be the last things I talk about. But I want those 2 words to sit in the back of your head, because when you really evaluate what happens in the entire world around you, if you master perspective and choice, nothing rocks you off center. So I started by saying state trumps all. Well, state is directly correlated to emotion. And if you let the world around you beat you up, your state has no choice but to suffer, right? So if what I'm arguing is that perspective and choice are the keys to managing your own emotions, I'm going to show you how that works and how to put certain scenarios that ordinarily would make your head pop off with perspective and choice. You should be calm as can be. But we're going to get to that. Before you could attempt to control other people's emotions, you have to be able to control your own. Fair statement? Before you could attempt to control other people's emotions, you have to be able to control your own. Keep that in mind. It's proven over and over and over and over, people make decisions on emotion and they justify it with logic. Still with me? So you can't control other people's emotions or influence other people's emotions if you can't control your own. And people make decisions based on their emotions. You guys see where I'm going? If A plus B equals C, C less B is going to equal A. You're giving yourself a disadvantage if you can't help people determine how they feel about a decision they're going to make. So you got to start with A in order to get to C. A is control your own emotions. We'll talk about how. Okay, just to kind of give the idea of what I want to create, I swear to you, 10 minutes ago, before I walked, not 10 minutes ago, now, 10 minutes ago before 5:30, I was on the phone with an occupant in a house in Babylon. She was flipping out. I should have recorded it. Losing her mind because she was supposed to get a check on Monday or Tuesday, and the asset manager that needs to sign the check and then send it overnight to me wasn't in today. So even if she is in tomorrow, it's going to overnight and get it Monday, but I'm saying I have no way of being guaranteed she's in tomorrow. She's losing her mind. She's flipping out, rightly so, but nonetheless, she was angry. I had to be extra calm to counterbalance her anger. I had to talk more mellow-mannered, more monotone, to try to offset it. If she got me riled up, you don't have to be a psychology major. If she got me riled up, do you think that's going to help matters or hurt matters? Yeah, no shit. No crap, it's going to hurt. But nobody thinks that way. So if somebody becomes combative, your energy rises up with it. Somebody feels strongly about something, you try to prove your point or push your opinion on them by stepping up the passion as compared to calming it down. So I jotted down like a few simple examples. If somebody's nervous, you be extra confident. If you think about that. So if somebody's nervous about the amount of work that's needed in a property, and now you put on your confident hat, and you explain it to them, and you break it down with that much more confidence because you sense their uncertainty. That's what I mean. Let your emotions counterbalance. They need you to be confident there. You can't be chasing the check, and you're like, oh, this sack of crap is wasting my freaking time over this goddamn kitchen. But you default to getting angry that this person is uncertain, when really all they need is for your confidence to go up. You can't chase a check. You can't expect they're going to make the decision on their own. You have to try to find the opposite of what emotion you're trying to counterbalance and heighten it. Somebody's nervous, you have to be confident. They're making the biggest decision of their life. Put yourself in their shoes. And you have to show them that whatever decision they're about to make, or for that matter, not make, right? It's okay for them to say no. But whatever it is they're trying to make a decision on, you have to be confident when they're nervous. So what's the second half of lacks enthusiasm? So somebody's a stick in the mud. They don't do anything for you. Kaz, what would I do if somebody's not excited? Kaz or Mike?
You tone it up.
Oh, lunges, man.
Lunges,
Yeah.
right, of course.
God.
I default to lunges for almost anything. So if somebody, I'm telling you, if you guys didn't know it, we were buying workout equipment in Sears, and the guy was just unhelpful, and he was upset, and he lacked enthusiasm. He lacked enthusiasm. I had a choice to make. I could either deal with him being unenthusiastic and not get what I wanted out of him, or I could get him enthusiastic. So I figured how better to get him enthusiastic than to lunge in the center aisle with people passing us every which way in Sears. And in part embarrassed the crap out of my fiance, which is always fun. But the point is, I do that to get people excited. And I swear to you, I did it outside of a house in Wantaw, and I sold this house in Wantaw. Do you remember what was the street name?
Beach?
Clark? is Clarkish, like on a main road.
Yeah, it's right off
It was
the
like
car.
seconds away from the office.
I almost want to, wasn't it BCH right up the
I don't
car?
know. You know, I remember sitting on the stoop and these people were just motionless. From when they got out of the car, they gave me nothing, and I'm asking all the right questions, and I'm so like textbook perfect to get answers out of them, and they weren't doing anything. So somebody that lacks enthusiasm, I had to step it up. I put in 3 digits of the 4-digit lockbox, and I turned around. I was like, before I put this last digit in, are you ready to get excited? And they still, like, they smiled, but they didn't have a reaction. I moved her out of the way, and I did lunges. I said, I think you should stretch. I mean, I think this is going to be an exciting experience. I think I just found the home of your dreams, you know? And I was like, Oakland, yes, that was it. Thank you. So that's all to say, you got to manage your emotions, because I don't care what happened earlier in your day or what you're unhappy with from the week that you just got over. You have to be able to turn it on and get the people excited, because people make decisions based on emotion and they justify it logically. If you can't get that first domino to fall, get out of sales or prepare to tolerate mediocre for the rest of your life. You're going to be able to get a competitive advantage if you understand how people tick, and this is the beginnings of that. If somebody's angry, offer them a calming sentiment and logic, like I did today with this lady. I couldn't have possibly spoken more like Ben Stein, the guy, the clear eye guy.
Yeah.
Right? I was trying to get her to just see nothing is to worry about. Don't be upset. It's gonna get done. If anything, you stay later. And I was trying to just be as direct and as emotionless as possible. I have to counterbalance her losing her mind. All that's to say, offer people a different perspective. If they're angry about something, try to calm them down. If they're not excited, try to get them excited. If they're afraid to make a decision. I had somebody on the phone not too long ago. It was I'm selling a property in Florida. And I had this lady on the phone, and she was hung up on a few $1,000s. And I asked her, she was behind a desk, I asked her if she could go onto Zillow, and I brought her to the mortgage calculator. And I explained, I had her put it in. And I said, I'm not on Zillow. I want you to tell me what the difference per month would be. And it was like $36. And I said, do you drink coffee? And she laughed. And I said, do you know where I'm going with this? You spend more than that in coffee. Make your coffee at your house. I'll get you the to-go mug. Don't let this little bit stand in the way of the house. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you guys ever invite anybody to go onto Zillow?
No, but I used that just today. I got $10,000 off on the sale. And the guy's in the bill, via text, I said, Bill, you're $1.66 a day. Like,
Yeah.
only
Right.
this
Reduced
house.
to ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's an awesome expression.
Yeah.
Reduced to ridiculous. But if you guys aren't toying with that and aren't playing with it, that to me is a part of emotion management, right? You got to be able to think outside the box. You got to be able to think, what is it standing in the way of that person? So when we were talking about objection handling, and I said the most important question coming into something is, what about your current condition is making you hunt for a home? Or what about your current condition is making you put your property on the market? Has anybody used that question yet? Don't lie to me.
I did.
Okay. Was it successful?
Yeah.
Does it
it's
extract
perfect. Yeah.
talking and rapport building? Angel and I have been to 2 houses so far, so you've heard me interact with people. You said something to me that was very nice, by the way, when we left the people in Old Bethpage. Do you remember what you said?
I don't remember exactly, but yeah,
Great, so you didn't mean it,
You
sure.
handled, no, you
Not
handled them
forgivable.
very well. You were very sincere.
When we sat with them, they were all over the place. They had no idea what they wanted to do. And if you remember, the word you specifically used was confidence and sincerity. But you said you're so confident and yet so sincere, or something like that. And I remember thinking to myself, that was so designed to be that way. Not that I'm insincere, but I have to show them I care. So I laid it on extra thick. I didn't mislead them, right? I left them with choice, right? I didn't, as a matter of fact, one would argue that I pushed them to not do what would make us money, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny that the characteristics you pulled out of that was confidence and sincerity, when the emotions I was trying to counterbalance was uncertainty.
Right.
The confidence is going to offer the uncertainty and hardship. You take these, what, 83 and 84 years old? was the couple I was sitting with, we were sitting with, and they had no idea what they wanted to do. The lady actually told me, I want to be carried out of this house, right? What am I to say to that? But when you stop. But
Come on, lady, here we go.
my point is,
I'll call Sims. Got it. Here we go. That's easy. Next.
84, Mike's 30. I think you got it.
but my point is, you have to forward think, and you have to know your audience. And again, I make mention of the comments you made when you left, because that's exactly what I wanted somebody to think. I needed them to see my confidence, and I needed them to feel my sincerity. If that same audience was very confident in the subject matter, do you think I would have spoken the same way? Not at all, because they needed to answer for themselves what they wanted to do. Does that make sense? So I'm managing how I display what I feel. That's taking control of your emotions. And you know what? The hardest thing to do is when you know somebody's wrong, but they're so confident, you can't go out and just tell them you're wrong. Then they'll be like, screw you, and you're fish. I don't want anything to do with you.
I'm good at that.
So, and you know what? It's messed up, but that's the hardest thing to overcome, especially in my position, guys. It kills me, the knuckleheads I have to deal with every day, that they insist that their way is right, and I know with no uncertain terms their way is wrong, but I can't come out right and say it. Emotion management. It's being calculated. It's figuring out what the best way to say something so that you get the results you want, rather than just any result that happens to come as a result of it, as a byproduct of that shit. Make sense?
Yes.
So I'm glad I was using that as an example, and I know only you were there with me, but I hope I proved the point. I had an audience. I knew what they needed to feel or see in order to have confidence in me or trust me, right? And here we are. We're moving along. They feel good, even though he didn't call the attorney yet, but he called me back, and he's engaged, and he wants to do something. He just doesn't know what he wants to do yet. But I have no doubt that he'll work with us.
I don't know if you caught it, but when we first walked in, she goes, "Oh no, another realtor, had plenty of them."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But by the time they left, and then also,
Really connected with you.
oh my God, she wouldn't let go of my hand. I was like, I gotta go. But do you remember I was standing and sneezing? Something in the house was making me sneeze. I was sneezing like a lunatic, and I stood for the last like 15 minutes of the meeting. I'm like, come on. They didn't let me leave. But she's absolutely right. And although I didn't hear that, think about the polar opposites of how it began and how it ended. It started with just some realtors just up, and now they are completely engaged. These people won't work with anybody but us. I could almost guarantee it. I'd bet on it. But it's because I positioned myself to make sure I was only telling the story I needed them to hear. All a part of emotion management. Outdrive. You know what? People ask me often how I do what I do, or how I work so many hours, or for that matter, just building the business and thinking outside the box. And I attest it each time to outdriving. I'm not the smartest, I'm not the fastest, there's a lot I lack, I guarantee it. But I outdrive almost anybody I've ever gone toe-to-toe with, except my Sims. But I outdrive almost anybody. And when it comes down to it, I persevere. And this also has to do with this state management and emotion management from my perspective. I don't get discouraged, guys. I don't get pissed at people. I let it go. And that now I'm going to talk about perspective and choice a little bit. But I want to start by saying, don't let anybody break you down. I don't care who they are and what they mean to you. You shouldn't let them completely break you down. Now, the more you love somebody, I'm not insensitive. I don't have a stone in here, believe it or not. Something's pumping, right? But only, you know what's funny? Even my fiance, recently she got so pissed at somebody at work, and she took it home with her. I said, "Are you in love with him?" She laughed. I swear to you, this is how I responded. She's like venting and pissed and pacing and she's going to watch this. And I asked her, I said, "Are you in love with him?" And she's like, "Stop being a, nasty word." Right? And I said, waste your worry on those you love. If you're in love with them, let's talk it out. Let's figure it out, But if you're not in love with them, F the clown. Right? I mean, what does he mean to you? So you're gonna sit here and ruin dinner because some knucklehead X, Y, and Z. Make sense? Emotion management. Because believe it or not, people carry something with them far beyond the experience. So everybody vents, right? Don't even get me started on venting. Venting is the freaking worst. Because if you realize when you retell the story, you get more pissed than when you told the story the first time. So again, I use the guy that cut you off. You get home and you throw your keys on the table and you're like, this mother effer, I had so much room getting onto the entrance ramp for the 135 and he flicked me off and he was riding up my tail and he was this and he was that, or the buyer I was supposed to meet at 9 o'clock, he didn't show up, it ruined my freaking day, or you repeat a story. I broke my windshield, I did this, I did whatever it is, but when you repeat the story, guys, it anchors the experience. It anchors the experience. It's branding into your mind and into your body the experience that you should be trying to purge. Yet everybody vents. I don't get it. I don't retell bad stories. I retell good stories. As a matter of fact, people make fun of me because I retell the good stories so often. But it is what it is. I don't retell the bad stories. Why would I want to relive that? You guys got to be able to purge that out. That, guys, is squatters. You guys have heard me say that, right? No squatters in your brain. When you leave an experience, when you unplug from an experience, get rid of the squatters. If somebody pissed you off, drop it. Move on. To the extent that you don't have to control the scenario. If Ken and I are toe-to-toe, and you're doing something that pisses me off, I love you, but to use you as an example, when we're engaged, I'm allowed to take ownership of those emotions because I'm going to tap into those emotions to get what I want. Regardless of the outcome, when I leave, if I let you piss me off, what we just did, but by me being pissed has no by me being pissed has no impact on you, right? You're squatting in my head. Does that make sense, guys? Yet every single day I hear it from, I want to say literally, but anybody around me that expresses how they feel about the day or the week or the month, they default to the bad experiences. And they tell the story so clearly as if they've relived it 100 times in their head. And to me, that's disabling. It's crippling. It's nothing shy of crippling. Because now you're thinking that, and most people mirror that onto a possibility of the next experience making them feel the same way. So everybody they engage with, once the scenario comes close to how the last scenario ended that made you feel so poorly, your guard's up. This guy's going to come late. He's going to freaking come late. This is going to end poorly. This prequel is never going to go through. This 203K is not going to close. This guy's not going to buy it because of the kitchen. Whatever it is, you're gonna reflect the old experience onto the new one, and you're not going to approach the next opportunity to take advantage of whatever the experience is because of a bad experience prior, because you're reliving it. Still make sense? Last and final. Jeez, this pen's had a bad day. Perspective and choice, guys. I don't want to get too nerdy about this, but there's nothing that I've encountered that, well, I shouldn't say nothing. I so take that back. There are certain things that in my personal life, in my business life, that I could put in the right perspective and I had no choice. And I don't mean to say that everything could be lumped into these two categories, but a majority of what I see ruins people around me from an emotional standpoint, and they're not clear-minded, and you have to be clear-minded to launch a business. And each of you guys has a business within my business, right? You have to be clear-minded to launch a business. You have to have focus, you have to have energy, you have to be able to convince other people to do stuff they don't want to do almost every single day of your freaking life. You have to be able to persevere, you have to be strong, you have to be smart, you have to invest in yourself, school and stuff. All of that to say, that's harder to do if your mind's not right. Perspective and choice. And again, I started by saying everything, and I immediately took it back because I don't have choice all the time. And for that matter, I have, unfortunately, even recently, gone through things that I just can't put in a perspective that I'm comfortable with. I just can't. And those things haunt me. But I save that haunt for things that are deserving of it. Everything else bounces off of me like you wouldn't believe, and nobody gets under my skin. at least for a long period of time. If they do, it's very short-lived. And I have the cure for it. I get right out from underneath it. Perspective is knowing the source it came from. You have to know who is telling you, just like I asked Tracy if she loved the guy at work. If she don't love him, that's perspective. Take it from where it's coming from and evaluate, is this worth my time? Should I be so concerned with what just happened or what could happen? Perspective is somebody might not know what you know. So if somebody thinks they know, but they're empowered with the wrong information, why would you get pissed at them for having a difference of opinion? They don't know what you know. So sometimes you're too smart. Lack of patience, right? I see all the time people get frustrated. It could be something as simple as a communication barrier. It could be something as simple as not having a prequal and not knowing why to have a prequel, being intimidated by construction. Those things can't piss you off because you have to know the source that it's coming from, and you put it in perspective. I could go on about perspective, but do you guys get that component? When it comes to emotion management, perspective is key because you got to know where it's coming from, and you have to evaluate, is this deserving of my squatting, right? Is this deserving of my time? Is this deserving of my attention? Should I be responding this way? Should I put the time in to try to cure it? Or just let it bounce off? I'm not saying become insensitive, guys. Don't swing the pendulum all the way in the opposite direction. But I could almost bet that a majority of us, including me before I really dug deep into this stuff and made a definitive effort not to do some of the crap I found myself doing, you default to that, right? I mean, is that fair? Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
You default to thinking that way. The second thing is choice. That was all perspective. The second thing is choice. Nobody's holding a gun to your head. And it's upsetting to me that people feel cornered in. And even recently, I mean, Cons and I were talking about different things that we got going and how we spend our day, and I was complaining that I feel cornered in certain ways, and I wish I had more time to do this, and I want to get this business up and running, and he was talking about the same things. Choice is so key, and if you deny yourself choice and you don't embrace choice, you feel cornered in. You're going to hate what you do. It could be choice within an industry. It could be choice within how you spend your day. It could be choice within who you decide to associate yourself with. The bottom line is you have to use or leverage or embrace or recognize choice to help you feel better about things that aren't going perfectly. You chose to do whatever it is. Take ownership of it. But when I use perspective and choice, and I realize the source that anything's coming towards me, and I'm not saying to pity people, but I put it in perspective. Is this person strapped for cash? Maybe that's why they're acting so emotionally about this deal. I put it in perspective. Maybe that person, you know what, just went through a hardship. And I don't know. I don't have to know. But I put it in perspective. That person's saying whatever they're saying or doing whatever they're doing for a reason, even if it's unbeknownst to me. I assume they're saying it for a reason. I'm tolerant of it because I'm not in that person's shoes. And sometimes I thank God I'm not. Like with this occupant that I spoke to 10 minutes before I walked in. You know what? How am I going to make the parallel to this lady? She's not in a good place. But I recognize that I can't get upset at whatever she's telling me, and she could yell and scream and throw shit. I don't care. I'm not in her shoes, and I didn't let myself get pissed, even though she was beating the hell out of me. I didn't let myself get pissed because I put things in perspective. So to go back to choice for a second, at no point are you guys committed to do exactly what you're doing every day. Everybody. And I hope I'm not selling everybody on getting totally different careers. But my point is, there's choice. There's unlimited choice. And it's down to as molecular as how you spend each minute of each day, and as largely as what you do with your entire career, where you live. I mean, the number of hours you put into a day, what opportunities you pursue, who you hang out with. Choice, guys. Choice is unlimited. And when people forget that they have choice, and then they illustrate to me and they vent to me that they feel cornered in and they have to do this and they have to do that, freaking retire. Retire. And do only what it is you feel you want to do that day or that month or that week or that year. Make sense? Perspective and choice is really the cornerstones of emotion management. Any questions about emotions? Anybody want to discuss anything about emotions? Do you guys see how this could impact business development? Those two things, time and emotion management? so largely impact business development?
Very much so.
Did I like depress everybody?
No.
I'm sorry for being that.
Well,
I should have played Michael Jackson.
from a, from a personal testimony, I've been trying very hard to not repeat bad stories. What's the point? Why let it take traction? Why go home and, because we use the word vent, and that's such a
Garbage.
misnomer. Venting is not venting. Venting is reliving the bad experience. And until I kind of got that, so you want to, oh, honey, you like just exactly like you said. You want to tell your wife, anybody what happened. And it's like, no, I just try now to stop, and all of a sudden we're talking about something else, and all is cool.
It is. And you know what? To the extent that you could do that more regularly, not even you, Kaz, I mean, largely, if everybody could make a definitive effort not to repeat bad stories, now all of a sudden you're going to enjoy what you did more. Just like when I broke it down before, and I said there was a window where, not that I didn't enjoy what I was doing, but I was certainly noticeably shorter fused. I was going home unhappy. I wasn't dancing every morning like the goofball that I really am. And believe me, guys, I dance around my house like such a fool. It's not even funny. But I wake up every day to alive, right? To just energy. And I found I was losing that. And I broke it down. And that was when I started staying home 2 days a week and revisiting my business. I stopped working with a number of clients. I fired a handful of people that were just total fly-in ointment. And I restructured almost my entire business after it hit me that I identified what pissed me off, I refused to relive it, and I got rid of it. The more you guys could do that, now all of a sudden you enjoy doing what you're doing more because you're not anchoring all the bad shit. You're talking about the good stuff. You guys heard me say 30-second dance party, right? It was on like a Grey's Anatomy episode, and it caught my ear, and timing's everything, right? I was just talking to somebody earlier about not embracing the bad, but taking the time to celebrate the good. And I was reliving the conversation in my head, and I hear from downstairs, like music starting to play, and in the middle of a hospital, they're celebrating this success story. And I totally stole it from the show, and I used it with my team in Denver, and I was saying it's so important that when you have a milestone, when you hit a point, big or small, when you hit a point and there's a reason to celebrate, freaking celebrate. Celebrate big. Do something big. I told you guys, I get in my car, I yell. I yell like a lunatic once I'm distant enough that the person won't judge me. But I'm known to yell. And thank God I have a Bluetooth in my car so people could think I'm talking on the phone. I ain't talking on the phone. I'm talking to myself. And I'm excited and I'm freaking celebrating whatever just happened. So this is the polar opposite of telling a bad story when you get home. I get home, I can't wait to relive what went best that day because that's what I want to anchor. And that's what gives me the fuel to do it again. And then I want 2 of the best things to happen the next day and then 10 of them to happen the next week. Make sense? Anything else?
Yeah.
Count on
ATL. This was such a quiet, I put on deodorant. It's
and all joking aside, guys, and please be brutally honest with me. I told you guys the first time I came in the room that day, I said either you're gonna play it at 10 and we could do it as often as you guys want, or I'm gonna get rolled eyes and I'm gonna stop. Now, I could bring the stupid little thing every week, or not every week, every month or so, whenever we get together, and we could start every single sitting like that, if you guys want to. But no joke, I do it. I do it. I'm telling you guys, you would never trust me with your business futures if you saw how hard I play when I'm trying to put myself in the zone. I have so much fun with it. But to Kaz's point, if you guys want to start with that, I'll do it every time. What they're talking about is I had everybody screaming and clapping and dancing like fools to different Michael Jackson songs to try to illustrate the feeling that you get when dopamine is running through your body. That's what the entire exercise was all about.
By no means am I belittling the meeting. The meeting was awesome and content-filled. I was just making a joke about,
but you know what?
The contrary, but the content is insane. Yeah, really.
And thank you, and I hope you guys get something from it and go back and play with it and experiment with it. But it's everything together. Like last time we were just talking about handling objections and strategies of sellers and identifying internal versus externally influenced people. Does anybody go and nail internal or external? Have you guys played with that? That's freaking huge. That's huge. If you could identify early on in the conversation if somebody's internally motivated or externally motivated, competitive edge. So if you guys award yourselves competitive edge, a nugget of a competitive edge at every bus stop, you're going to win much more than you'll lose.
Just today, this guy Bill, here we go, right? He's like, well, I'm thinking of driving my offer back down to 280, and you know, they could take the house and stake it, right? So the first thing I wanted to do was reach through the phone and kill him. I said, no, do what you want. That's fine. Keep in mind, interest rates are going to go up and prices are going to go up. And I'm telling you, with my 14 years of experience, that this is a good house. I'm not trying to say something as much as lead in the direction of what I think a good deal is for you. And if I would have told him, no, you're wrong, you're an idiot, you know, no, but exactly that, like you say, so he's externally motivated or internally?
If he's confident in the subject matter, he's internally motivated. So what you did was you made a suggestion rather than making a statement.
Yep.
And with internally motivated people, questions are more powerful than answers because they need to hear themselves say it.
If I would have told him when I needed him, if I would have told him, instructed him, I would have lost.
I'll tell you what, if you would have said, Bill, I respectfully disagree, he would have shut you off.
Yeah.
Now, no matter what you said, no matter what advice you said, it meant more to him to win than to make the right decision.
Yeah.
But if you position it as, I want you to be comfortable with whatever decision you make, but I do want to just share with you, statistically, buying power has never been more powerful. Normally, interest rates and real estate prices, and you know my spiel, and I've explained it thousands of times to people, how buying power right now is so immeasurable. It's unnatural, guys. It's unnatural. Interest rates and real estate prices have never met at the bottom, and here they are together. So from my standpoint, everybody should act now. But if you would have taken a firm stance and said you're wrong, if he's as confident as you illustrate, he would have shut you up, and he would have fought you for sport.
I wanted to. My first
Sure.
knee-jerk was to fight him, but then I said, no.
Do you know why, Kaz? Because you're also confident in the subject matter. So if you know that your decision is better than his, of course your knee-jerk reaction is to go to battle. Normal. But emotion management says repackage the message, put it in a way that you know you're going to get the result you want. Think about the guy in Belmore with the building. I remember going to the when he was trying to get the permits approved and we were contemplating, do we go to the town and literally stop it in its tracks, or do we call them and take this position? The guy, it was on Orange Street, the new construction, the guy that screwed you.
Yeah. Well, no, I won that one.
We won, but we won because we
that's
thought
right.
our approach through. Did we not?
So unnatural, man. So.
But did it work?
It absolutely worked.
It worked.
Exactly
So
what I needed.
a few years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago,
2012, yeah.
Kaz had a very combative scenario, very, very combative, and he called me fuming. I felt the heat coming off of him through the phone, and the first thing I did was calm him down, and then I said, if you do what you just told me you're going to do, you will lose. I could almost guarantee it, and you'll probably get me sued. So I respectfully request you don't do that. However, if we approach it like this, and if he responds like this, we do that. If he responds like this, we do this. And we Visio. I should have made a Visio for Kaz. That's what I did. It was a series of if this, then that. And we made a roadmap that of all the possible outcomes of what choices Kaz had to make as far as how he approached this guy. And to his own admission, he won. And also to his own admission, he did something that was completely unnatural for him to do. His knee-jerk was to go about it one way, and I completely redirected and asked him to do it some way totally different, and it happened. And the other way, in hindsight, I'm still as confident would not have worked.
Yeah, no.
But that's the route he would have gone if he was acting emotionally. I didn't even think about that, but that's a perfect example of this. So all that hit me.
No, so at what point in time, because I'm playing with this and I'm testing it, what point in time do you know water in that state where it's opening with a line of fire?
Oh God, you know it. You know it.
Okay.
First of all, it's not a cliff edge. It's not all or none. But I don't know. I don't know if there's like a meter for it.
Okay.
But I know when I don't have it. And it's harder to identify when you do, at least with me. It's harder to identify when I do as compared to when I don't. The second you feel beat, the second you feel like you can't win, the second you're going into something assuming you're going to lose, you do not have it. So to offer the inverse of what you're asking, if you're going into something questioning whether or not you should even be there, or going into something expecting that there's a good possibility you're going to lose, you don't have it. You don't have it. And you got to do lunges. You got to yell on your way there. You got to go to Eisenhower Park and scream at the top of your lungs. I've done it a handful of times. So whatever it is, that's when you know you're not there. Now, the flip side is if you want to punch a file cabinet, if you want to dent my freaking file cabinet, you damn bully, that's when you know you had it. Do you remember how you felt when you punched my file cabinet? Okay. I still didn't backcharge him for that file cabinet.
Statute of limitations.
But that's how you know you have it. When you can't help but to wail a metal file cabinet.
Good answer. Thank you.
Anybody else?
We'll elaborate no more.
He punched my.
I will elaborate no more.
There's like a sim.
We'll elaborate
There's
no
a
more.
sim fist. Anyway, it's better than hitting me. Anybody else? But that's good. I mean, toy with it. Toy with it. Anybody else? All right, guys, play with these things every week. Or every month. Take a little something and try to develop it. If you don't toy with it when we're not together, you're never going to develop it enough. And come back with feedback. I want you guys to throw stuff back at me so that I could build on it and help you get to a position where you really, you feel you have an unfair advantage. That's how you know you struck. And now when you're taking full advantage of all this stuff put together, you're going to feel guilty that you're looking for things that you've never looked for before, and you feel you have such an unfair edge. That's how you know you have it all. I'm telling you, I feel guilty sometimes. But it's because I have so many things to look out for, and I feel I have an edge in so many interactions. It's empowering. It's good. We want that. Everybody should have that. At least everybody that works with me.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks, Mike.
Got it, brother.
I gotta run.
Okay, the food will be out in a minute.